Welcome to Beyond the Margins, the podcast, the place where we engage, educate, empower, and elevate. I'm your lead learner and host, Dr. Sohn A. Each week, I sit down with some of the brightest minds and dynamic leaders in education to challenge traditional narratives, especially those shaping the experiences of students at the margins. Together, we explore new ways to reimagine schools, classrooms, and learning communities as spaces for growth and transformation. At Beyond the Margins, we center students too often overlooked, sharing the stories, strategies, and ideas that matter most. Voices long pushed aside are brought to the center. Welcome to Beyond the Margins. I'm excited about what is about to happen. Truly, I am. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for pressing play. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for leaning in. Before we go any further, I want to name why this podcast begins now, why this moment matters. I'm releasing this podcast in March, the month after Black History Month. I did not want to intrude upon the sacred work of those who came before us, those who paved the way, endured the struggle, carried the weight, and brought us to this point. That work deserves reverence, it deserves space, it deserves honor, and that work deserves our gratitude. But this work is about the future. This work requires our energy and it demands our effort. It's about what we will do and what we must do. And so March felt right. When the ancient Romans named the months, they named March for the mythological god Mars, the god of war. In other words, March is the month of action, the month of advancement. March is the time to claim and reclaim territory. And that's exactly what this podcast exists to do. Beyond the Margins is here to create and take up space for those too often overlooked. The month of March also marks action in another very important way. March also marks the beginning of spring, the season where action is seen in the form of growth, renewal, and new beginnings. It's a reminder, yet again, that all things can and do change. At Beyond the Margins, we believe it's past time we began again. It's past time that we began to disrupt the status quo and challenge systems that no longer serve our children. This podcast is about reclamation. It's about planting seeds where others told us nothing could grow. At Beyond the Margins, we're not here to be comfortable. We're here to be honest, and we're here for real change. And that begins with the truth. So before we go any further, let me be clear. This podcast is not about fixing kids. This is not about fixing students. This is not about repairing young people as if they are a problem. This is about fixing systems, addressing mindsets, and considering the conditions that keep pushing young people to the edges and blaming them for falling off. Schools were never designed for every child. Not for Black and brown students, not for poor students, not for multilingual students, not for incarcerated learners, not for displaced learners, and historically excluded learners of a variety of kinds. And yet, we keep asking the same question: what's wrong with them? At Beyond the Margins, we reject that question because we know that brilliance does not live only at the center. It lives in the minds and aspirations of all learners. Brilliance lives in the underfunded, under-resourced, undervalued public school systems across this country. It lives in cities and districts with history steeped in inequity. Brilliance is abundant in alternative schools, in GED classrooms, and prison education spaces. This podcast exists because too many brilliant students and capable people have been failed by systems that refuse to change. This podcast is for educators working in urban, alternative, and non-traditional spaces. Education is hard work, and the Beyond the Margins podcast serves not only as a reflective lens of our practice, but as a community for those of us closest to the work. This podcast is for school and system leaders navigating inequitable structures they did not create, but are responsible for transforming, because education does not happen in vacuums. It is shaped by decisions made in board meetings, in policy rooms, and in executive leadership discussions. This podcast is for counselors, social workers, and community educators doing the invisible labor of care. Because education is not just content, it's connection, its context, and its conditions. This podcast is for parents and caregivers trying to make sense of systems that were never built with their children in mind. We're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to help you advocate for your student. But ultimately, Beyond the Margins, the podcast is for anyone who believes education should be an act of liberation, rooted in dignity, belonging, and the full development of students as people. Let me be clear about something else. There is nothing natural, inevitable, or deserved about being pushed to the edges. No person, no community is inherently marginal. When we say Beyond the Margins, we are naming marginalization as a process created through policy, practice, power, and perception. The margins are not a reflection of people's worth or value. They are, however, a reflection of systems that decide who gets centered and who gets ignored. Going beyond the margins means refusing to accept those decisions as final or just. It means centering voices that have been historically dismissed. It means reimagining classrooms as spaces of belonging, healing, rigor, and truth. It means moving students from struggle and survival to self-definition and to self-determination. Did you know that students who feel emotionally safe and genuinely valued are twice as likely to be engaged in school and learning? And yet, national data tells us that fewer than 1 in 3 students report feeling engaged in their learning. For students at the margins, Black and brown students, students with disabilities, students in alternative learning settings, those numbers are even lower. That's not a motivation problem. That's not a parenting problem. That's a design problem. And Beyond the Margins exists to interrogate that design. Each week, this podcast questions what schooling takes for granted. We challenge dominant narratives about who students are and what they are capable of. Through conversations with educational leaders, innovators, and scholars from across the country, we talk about education not as neutral, but as cultural, political, and deeply relational. You'll hear a commitment to relationships before rigor, to trust before technique, to learning environments where accountability and care coexist. You'll hear stories and analysis that treat student disengagement not as failure, but as data, as a signal calling educators, leaders, and systems to respond differently. And throughout it all, you'll hear this truth repeated. Students at the margins are not broken. They're responding logically to environments that were never built with them in mind. If you've ever said, there has to be a better way, this podcast is for you. If you've ever thought, I want to be a stronger advocate for my child, this podcast is for you too. If you're a leader who knows the system doesn't need tweaking, it needs reimagining, then you're exactly where you're supposed to be. At Beyond the Margins, we seek to disrupt the educational status quo, to challenge systems that benefit from silence, and we confront the harm we've been taught to ignore and endure. We ask better questions, and we tell fuller stories, and we center voices that have long been pushed aside. So subscribe, share this with your people, educators, parents, leaders, and community builders. Join me every week as new episodes drop every Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Come ready to rethink and reimagine what education can be. Because when learning is designed with students, families, and communities, not just for them, everything changes. Welcome to Beyond the Margins.
Next time on Beyond the Margins.
A lot of the data shows that people who are considered and earmarked illiterate by 3rd grade, which, up until 3rd grade as a reading specialist, we were always taught that you learn to read from 1st grade to 3rd, and then from 3rd grade, continuing education, you read to learn. Mm-hmm. So if by 3rd grade, you haven't learned to read, you're going to be messed up because you're going to not be able to read, to learn for the rest of your academic stint. Taking a look, actually, I believe it starts at the early engagement and early literacy phase of really catching and captivating, because they show that a lot of the students who have IEPs and are struggling readers at that point pretty much are going to be possibly pipeline to prison, because they'll never be able to sort of catch up.
Research knows and says that it doesn't matter what people read, as long as they're reading. There's even a research study that says that simply having books in a house, on a bookshelf, on a table, increases literacy in kids, even if they see no one reading them.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, one of these systemic linchpins to success and achievement is around this thing called literacy. Thank you for joining us on Beyond the Margins. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, share this episode, rate and review the show, and let's keep the dialogue going. If you would like to connect, email me at Sohn@beyondthemarginsllc.com. That's SOHN@beyondthemarginsllc.com. It's been a pleasure being with you. Until next time, keep teaching, keep learning, keep leading, and keep pushing beyond the margins.